Government to grant teachers subsidized loans to purchase homes as it provides 10,000 housing units.
Teachers and Educational Workers Union table calls off strike.
Civil service gears up to give off its best this year.
And in Niger, the mayor of Fachi arrested for traveling with 214 kilograms of cocaine packed in a state-owned vehicle. This is News Hour coming to you live on GBC News and GTV. Good evening. You're welcome to the news. I'm Suyoko Kwakutre.
Good evening. My name is Shirley and Anwarabe Frimpong so translates the news into sign language. The government is rolling out a scheme to grant teachers subsidized loans for them to purchase homes at locations of their choice across the country.
The 10,000 housing units could also be acquired on rental basis. President Akufo-Addo announced this at the ongoing 6th Quadrennial Delegates Conference of the Ghana Teachers Association in the Ashanti region.
Members of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, are meeting to evaluate strategies of the association and adopt new policies for the years ahead. The Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Yauba, described NAT as a worthy partner of the TUC.
What you need to do is to constantly renew your commitment to the values that have seen NAT through the last 90 years. And these are unity, solidarity, democracy, respect for your own constitution, social justice, economic justice, distributive justice, fairness, and above all, promoting and protecting the collective interests of teachers through social partnership and social dialogue.
The Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Mr. Ignatius Bafwewa, commended the association for the Tier 3 pension scheme and urged other unions to learn from it. He said public sector workers will enjoy a 7% salary increment this year from the 4% received last year.
We endured a difficult time during the period of COVID. But, Mr. President, you insisted that under no condition should any Ghanaian public worker lose his job during the period of COVID, in spite of the difficulties that the country was going through. Through that, we were able to safeguard the work of every public sector worker in Ghana, including teachers, for which members of NAT are included.
President Akufo-Addo announced his government's plans to build affordable housing units for teachers within the next 2 years.
I'm fully aware that one challenge facing teacher ownership of homes beyond finance is their inability to purchase homes where they intend to retire. The Ministry of Education is working with the National Service Scheme on this. In addition, the Ministry of Works and Housing is in discussion with teacher unions, including your own, to provide more housing opportunities for teachers. Within the next 2 years, it is proposed that 10,000 housing units on affordable terms will be developed for teachers across the country.
The executive of the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEU, has called off their strike today following a meeting between the union, the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. However, the General Secretary of TEU, Mr. Mark Denchira Kranche, in an interview with GBC News, emphasized that TEU will advise itself if a satisfactory consensus is not formed.
We are asking our members to suspend the strike action from tomorrow, because as for today, the day is almost ended. So from tomorrow, they will have to go to work because the strike action is on suspension, that we are pending the outcome of the technical committee's work. We will determine whether to call the strike off entirely or we will resume the strike. It is expected that this allowance will enable our members to continually develop themselves to be able to work effectively and efficiently in their area of work. So it is important that they are able to develop themselves and be able to fit into the system that they operate. And that is why we think that if government will pay to the teaching class and leave out the non-teaching class, then there is an imbalance, which we think must be corrected.
The civil service has put measures in place to motivate personnel in the service to put in their best this year. The head of the civil service, Nana Kwesi Ajekum Jamina, made the disclosure to GBC News in Accra when the news team visited the ministries and wanted to know their plans for 2022.
The civil service, otherwise known as ministries, is a non-political body of government officials who are employed in civil occupations. They include administrative assistants and officers who carry out clerical and administrative duties. They help to ensure that government policies are developed and put into effect. In line with calls for improved productivity in the public sector, GBC News made contact with the civil service to find out about its performance plan for 2022. The news team spoke to the head of service, Nana Kwesi Ajekum Jamina.
We focus more on the systems that we can put in place, the strategies that we can put in place to ensure that people deliver within the context. Setting the targets, system for improving interrelationships, systems for capacity building, which we have done the last 3-4 years. Government has been very supportive of the civil service.
Giving his New Year message, he entreated civil service staff to do better.
We believe that if the civil service performs and performs well, it has a domino effect on all the other services. And so that is my hope, that we in the civil service will perform as expected.
He cautioned the personnel not to be partisan in the executions of their duties to the nation.
All the countries that have developed the world over, they develop because we have an efficient and effective civil service. My call to you this year, as I've always done in the last 3-4 years, is that let us rise, let us deliver, let us remain non-partisan. Everybody who comes to us, let us provide services without fear or favor. Let's be able to speak truth to power.
You're still watching News Hour Live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. The Kumasi International Airport will receive its first international flight in October this year. Flight stimulation starts in June to pave the way for full operation in the last quarter of the year. The Ashanti Regional Minister, Mr. Simon Osei-Mensah, disclosed this during his quarterly inspection tour of ongoing projects in the region. The regional minister first inspected the Ahojo-Sokoban Threaded Road, which is over 90% complete. The 10% left is as a result of delays in payment of compensation to owners of houses, EMI for devolution at the Sokoban Township, as well as the relocation of a community shrine. The minister and his entourage also inspected the Santasi and Riankwanta Road project. The project is being undertaken by Mercer's Projop construction firm. Work is steadily progressing and expected to be completed in 2 years.
I'm highly satisfied. I've made it as a policy to inspect some major projects going on in the region every quarter. So if you've noted, almost every 3 months, I visit some of these projects.
The regional minister said most road projects delay unduly as a result of payment of compensation.
The Regional Project Evaluation Implementation Committee will therefore be revived to facilitate payments of compensation by contractors to avoid unnecessary delay in project execution. The minister directed utility providers whose lines impede smooth execution of road construction to relocate them. Mr. Osei Mensah said so far he is satisfied with the projects being executed in the metropolis. The minister also visited the over 40-year-old mother and baby care unit project at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. The team also inspected the Phase 2 project of the KJTR Central Market. All traders have been moved to pave the way for execution of the project. The final port of call was the Kumasi International Airport Extension project. The regional minister was hopeful that the October 2022 deadline for completion would be met.
The Ghana Education Service, GES, says it will come out with the reopening date and curricula for the 2022 academic calendar and beyond by close of the week. In an earlier interview with GBC News, the Director of Public Relations at the GES, Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, explained that the calendar is carefully thought through and will cater for all the distortions and challenges encountered in 2021 due to the adverse impact of COVID-19 on the academic calendar.
Gotten in touch with all the relevant stakeholders, i.e. the Ghana Education Service. This time around, we also have the TVET service on board, the school heads, and of course, Charles and all other relevant stakeholders. There is a meeting ongoing between all these stakeholders, of course, to finalize the timetable, not only for the 2021-22 academic year, but even beyond 2022-2023, and of course, 2024 academic year, so that we wouldn't be seeing that distortion that we used to have in the past. So we are very hopeful hopefully by close of week or maximum next week, the new academic timetable will be announced for the pre-tertiary school. That is from the basic level up to the high schools. And when I say high schools, I'm referring to the junior high schools and the senior high schools. So very soon we are going to announce the new timetable, which includes all the reopening date, not for only this year or this academic year, but in subsequent years up to somewhere 2024.
The National Democratic Congress (NDC) has prevailed upon the government not to implement the removal of the benchmark values on some 43 imported goods. At a media briefing in Accra on Wednesday, the NDC asserted that the move will not improve the lot of local manufacturers as stated by government, but rather lead to an increase in the cost of living.
The continuous depreciation of the Ghana cedi, which is already eroding profit margins and the capital of businesses, importers and Ghanaians in general will be worse off as a result of this decision. In short, import duties will be far higher than they were before April 2019, when the benchmark value discounts were introduced. In view of the continuous free fall of the cedi and a raft of new crippling taxes that government has introduced since April 2019. Go to our neighboring countries, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina. There is nothing like COVID levy there. Import duties are not being increased by 50% for general goods, 30% for vehicles, and so on. Why Ghana alone? Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we contend that COVID-19 can neither be a reasonable justification for the reversal of benchmark value discounts on imported products, nor the imposition of unprecedented hardships and misery on the Ghanaian people by this government.
The Central Regional Branch of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, has registered about 140 vehicles so far this year. The number, according to the regional manager, Mr. Lawrence Adom, is more than what was recorded at the beginning of last year.
What we do here is that when the vehicles arrive, the officers go to examine the chassis numbers to make sure that everything is accurate. Then he brings the document here. When we go to the machine, also to check and see that the duties are paid. And when we do the verification and find out that everything is accurate, then I endorse. We book in our booth. When we book, then I endorse. Then the DVLA officials also go ahead with the registration.
To curtail the pressure and be able to serve our customers was to do what we term pre-inspection. Because people, when they come and they spend 4 hours, they attribute the problem to DVLA, that I spent 4 hours and that kind of stuff. But the usual thing is that we don't just register the vehicle as and when they come in. We have customs on site. And then what they do is that they would have to, first of all, assess the vehicle. In other words, making sure that they have paid the due customs fee. And then when they are set that the due custom fee has been paid, they release the document. And they don't do that just by sitting looking at maybe on the system or the PC. They have to also examine the vehicle first, making sure that the document presented, the chassis number on the document conforms to what is on the vehicle.
You're watching News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. We take a break. When we come back, we'll do some business news. Please stay with us.
Good evening, my name is Morris Ogbete. We start business from the capital market, where the Ghana Stock Exchange ended 2021 as Africa's second best performing stock market, both in dollar and cedi terms. In dollar term, the exchange recorded a 38.59% return for investors, whilst investors enjoyed 43.66% gain in the local arena. The Lusaka Securities Exchange was the best performing stock market in Africa, registering 93.2% gain in dollar term and 52.21% in local terms for investors. On the other hand, the Malawi Stock Exchange was third with a return of 32.24% and 40.05% in dollar and local terms respectively. Head of investment banking at CDH, James Afo, has been speaking to GBC News on factors that drove the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange in 2021.
We did 43.66%. That's at the end of the year 2021. Nigeria did around 6%.
6%. Wow.
Yeah. Then Egypt even recorded negative, and that was negative, though it was very marginal, negative 0.5. Then Kenya did 0.23%. So relatively, we are on top. The market was very good.
What COVID has hit almost all these economies, including ours. What actually is helping us to be in the positive terrain?
I think it has to do with the confidence level of investors and the liquidity of the market itself. Because every investor has the idea of generating some wealth from whatever fund that you've invested. So if you have a stock on a market, is this something that can easily be sold when you need money? Mm-hmm. Is there opportunity for people to actually buy as much as they want? And these are some of the research that I think our market is working perfectly for us. It is very liquid. Most of the stocks, almost all the financial stocks, did extremely well last year. You can easily sell, you can easily buy as well. So these are some of the things that push the performance of the market to that level that we expected.
And also in business, the immediate Director General of the State Interest and Governance Authority, Mr. Stephen Asamoah Boateng, has called on Ghanaians this year to exhibit selflessness in working towards building the Ghanaian economy amidst COVID-19.
Resolve to change if you have to, or resolve to improve if you have to. The key to development is always to improve. It's also always to grow. Continuously learn and train your staff, and don't ignore your staff. But the only other advice to Ghanaians is understand the two key words of life, which is fairness and caring. If that enters our life, we should be happy, because you should care for somebody and should be fair when you are treating somebody. If you don't care, you are not fair, you are selfish. Basically, that's what it is. With the goodwill we have and the goodwill of the new year, let's not throw away our life. Let's stay safe, please, and let's welcome the new year with God, mercy, and grace on all of us.
And on the Interbank Forex market, the cedi is trading at, or the dollar is trading at 6 cedis to the cedi. The pound sterling is going for 8 cedis, 12 pesos, and the euro going for 6 cedis, 78 pesos. We also update you on latest prices of major commodities on the international market.
Hello and welcome to the energy segment. My name is Mabel Anang. The suspension of the price and stabilization recovery levy on petroleum products has been extended for an additional month after an approval by President Akufo-Addo. The suspension was scheduled to end on December 31, 2021.
President Akufo-Addo in October last year granted approval to zero the price stabilization and recovery levies on petrol, diesel and LPG for 2 months. A statement issued by the National Petroleum Authority (NPA) said the approval followed the advice of the authority to the Minister for Energy to seek government intervention to mitigate the impact of rising prices of petroleum products on the world market on consumers. According to the NPA, price of crude oil and refined petroleum products had seen sharp increases on the world market due to a rise in demand of oil globally without a corresponding increase in supply, particularly from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies. The NPA asserts that due to the deregulation policy, changes in prices of petroleum products on the world market have a direct impact on prices at the pumps. Speaking to GBC News, a researcher at the Institute of Energy Security, IES, Fritz Moses, said the extension is not sustainable as it will not help stabilize the continuous increase in petroleum products this month.
We think the government's continuous suspension of the price stabilization and recovery levy of 16 pesos on petrol and 14 pesos on diesel may help stabilize prices a bit or may help reduce the impact of the increment that we are seeing on the international market. However, we don't think that's sustainable enough since we have seen that even when it was initially suspended in the first pricing window of November last year, we saw a further increment in prices by some 10 pesos at some various OMCs. It may stabilize a bit until when we enter February. But we think that if the international factors that are causing prices to rise on the local market still persist, we may be confronted with more issues of price hikes in the.
To some foreign energy news, Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has announced his resignation following ongoing fuel price protests in the capital of Almaty. Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has accepted Kazakhstan government's resignation and declared a state of emergency in the capital and other parts of the country amid violent protests triggered by fuel. And that's how we wrap up for the energy news. My name is Mabel Anang.
Welcome to the health segment brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco. The ongoing strike by the Ghana Association of Certified Anesthetists is affecting surgical operations, especially in public hospitals. A Central Regional Correspondent Kofi Sechiamapobi visited some health facilities in Cape Coast and reports that the absence of the anesthetists have stalled surgical operations in the facilities. Members of the Ghana Association of Certified Registered Anesthetists laid down their tools on Saturday, January 1, 2022, following the expiration of their license to operate.
Though they are on strike, some of them are partially working because definitely the human life is very important. So they are still playing that role to assist surgical operations. So though they are on strike, partially I can say that they are still working. But indeed, we know that once some of them are on strike and they don't have the full support or the full human resource within the theater, definitely it will affect surgical operations. So those that I spoke to who have visited the hospital or those who have been booked for operations express a little bit of concern and worry, because if you have been booked for an operation without an anesthetic, the operation cannot be successful, because at the end of the day, they are going to monitor the condition of patients. So this is a very critical department that the government and then all stakeholders should have a second look so that they can suspend their strike so that we can have the quality healthcare delivery, especially in our theaters and then in surgical operations. They are only waiting for the leadership and then the minister, that is the health minister, who had a crunch meeting with the leadership to come out with the solution.
The health segment of the news was brought to you by Lufat. Lufat is from Tobinco. The news continues after this break.